good news, the Seahawks offensive line is getting healthier. Bump, for some reason, you think that could mean good things for JSN, and it's not just that the offense is going to get better. Tell us what you mean.
So with the offensive line getting healthier, that means you're not going to need as much help as you've needed or Shane Waldron thought the O-line would need, because they've done a pretty good job. But when you have tackles who you didn't really think you're going to depend on, you start your tight ends a bit more. And I'm looking at the snap count. Kobe Parkinson has played 56% of the snaps. Got Uncle Will with 32% is overall. And then you have Noah Fant with 51%. Now, Will Dissie's at 32 because he missed a game. Now, you look at the snaps for JSN. He's been in 132 snaps. It's 52%. Now, typically, you'd want his number, or I think that if this offensive line was completely healthy, his numbers will be around 60 to 70%. That's what I think. You got DK getting 80%. You got Tyler Lockett getting 81%. I think he would be around 70 to 75%, maybe somewhere in that 80% range. And the reason why he hasn't been in, I think, right, this is just my educated guess, is that when you take a receiver off to put in a tight end, you're not going to take off DK most of the time. You're not going to take off Tyler Lockett. You're going to take off the guy in the slot. And fortunately for the Seahawks, you've been getting some production out of your tight ends. It's not like this team has been hurting. I think the tight ends actually playing has helped out their play-action pass game. We're seeing Kobe Parkinson and Noah Fant have some big plays as of late. So with the O-line getting healthier, I think you're going to look at the tackles. If Abe Lucas plays or Charles Cross plays, you're going to say, all right, he doesn't need that much help. Let's put the rookie in and see what he can do. You get three-man concepts. You get to your trips formations. Maybe just have one tight end out there instead of two or three. It just allows you to spread the defense out a bit more, and that's where I think JSN can do most of his damage, is when he is spread out in the slot, maybe that even number 2 spot, putting him in motion. But the good thing about this whole situation is that you have shown that you can play a different style of offense if need be. Shane Waldron is a tight end guy anyway. We know he loves the tight ends. He comes over from the LA Rams. You see what they did with their tight ends over there. We expected the tight ends to play a role in this thing, but you have a young man in JSN that just needs reps. And you look at it, you say, well, he's getting 52% of the plays. I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but he's used to being on the football field. He strikes me as a guy that the more reps he gets, like most guys, the more comfortable he's going to be. So I'm looking to see how they use this young man. But I think they've done so much or so well with the tight ends that they're
It's like you don't need him in a weird
guys.
way.
Yeah.
That sounds bad to say you don't need someone. He's a first-round pick. But again, this is the guy that you have for your team moving forward, too. So not using him a ton through 5 weeks of the season, or about to be 5 weeks of the season, like, isn't the end of the world. However, I think you're right, because what Bump is saying isn't, hey, the reason we haven't seen a lot of JSN is because there's more tight ends out there and you're going to take the rookie off. That's not what you're saying. What you're saying is, there's a couple reasons we haven't seen JSN have his best start, but one way that a lot of guys, a lot of rookies can start getting in that rhythm is by getting out there more. And you may see more reps for JSN with a healthier offensive line because they need less help from tight ends.
Yeah, you need reps. You need reps. Now, JSN has higher expectations than a DK Metcalf when he was drafted or Tyler Lockett when he was drafted. I think DK Metcalf and just his size and who he is physically force you to put him on the football field right now and say, look, you're going to play outside. You're going to go. You look at the way they used Tyler Lockett to start. He was just a returner. Now, granted, Tyler Lockett was drafted in what, the second, third round, something like that?
Third round, 2015, I want to say.
Right. He didn't have the expectations that a JSN has. So it wasn't a shock to anybody the way they slowly brought Tyler Lockett along. He was a returner to start, makes the Pro Bowl, then slowly works his way up to a number 1/number 2 receiver. With JSN, because where he was drafted, people are like, where is he? We want to see him on the field. And I don't blame you for that. But also, I look at the way Tyler Lockett has been brought up, and I go, I'm okay with JSN taking the scenic route when it comes to becoming a big part of this offense, because eventually Tyler's he's getting up there. He's 31. You know, Tyler got a couple more years of elite play in him, and then you need somebody to back him up. So just like I ask a lot of these offenses to look at their quarterbacks and say, you know what, maybe sit a year as a rookie or bring you on slowly, I'm okay with that with JSN, especially when your offense looks pretty good with tight ends out there.
The 3.60, JSN, almost seems a step slow right now. Like he's not quite 100% sure of himself. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think he's not sure of himself. I think he's still trying to find his place. And I think that the offensive calls might be different. The language might be different. The expectations for him are really different. He's trying to find his role on this team. And once a guy understands who he is in this league and what role he plays, at least for this year, I think he's allowed to play more freely. And they're not necessarily drawing up plays for him. You got DK, you got Lockett, you got Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet, the tight ends. It's not like you necessarily need him to have 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. 206, JSN has a broken hand, right? So JSN suffered a small fracture in his wrist for which he had surgery and bounced back pretty quickly. I do think it's worth remembering that he did have to take a bit of time out for an injury, and he is technically coming off surgery. It was not a broken hand, though, and the team clearly feels that he's healthy enough to be out there. So I would only lean on that for so long before you start saying, like, okay, are they going to find different ways to use him to get him involved? Because, look, if the strength of your team, you want to be your passing offense, you want to be able to utilize all your weapons and open that playbook up. JSN is going to be part of it.
A broken hand doesn't determine targets. Now, if you were out there dropping footballs and not blocking guys or not playing hard, I think that's the way a broken hand affects you. But I've seen none of that. I think it's just out of necessity. There's no need to force him to football right now. Let him get acclimated.
Someone said, who else was there at 20th is what gets me. Obviously, you had some other receivers. Baltimore ended up taking Zay Flowers. Addison, right, was another guy taken. Yep. So obviously there were defensive players who were taken. I think it's a little too early to wonder if JSN is the wrong fit. I think he's just a different wide receiver. Like, I think when you take a first-round receiver, you almost expect a DK body type and a DK style. But I like the way that you described JSN at his very best, which is you've got to kind of get him moving. Like, he's like, I like the Cadillac example. Like, he's not going to be a Lamborghini.
Nah, he's not a 0 to 60 in point whatever. He's a 0 to 60, and once I hit that 60, I'm coasting. I'm smooth. I'm knifing through the defense. He's a more what did Bruce Lee said? Be like water, right? He's like he's water.
He is smooth. Like, that is the word that was most often used, whether it was us interviewing players, whether it was other reporters that were watching him. Like, at training camp, he looked smooth.
You know,
like he looked like a veteran, but he didn't look like some explosive DK. They're different receivers.
Right. You know, a smooth receiver who got it done later in his career, too, when I was here, was Bobby Ingram. Smooth as heck, but you can always count on him to be in the right spots and make the plays. That's how I see Jason.